Welcome back. It is day 3 of the Republican National Convention here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The focus today, make America strong again. Last night was about American safety. We heard from victims of President Biden's border and crime crises. Former President Trump's former rivals also spoke in a show of party unity. Here's Nikki Haley and Governor Ron DeSantis last night. Watch.
You don't have to agree with Trump 100% of the time to vote for him. Take it from me. I haven't always agreed with President Trump. But we agree more often than we disagree. I'm here tonight because we have a country to save. And a unified Republican Party is essential for saving her.
Donald Trump has been demonized. He's been sued. He's been prosecuted, and he nearly lost his life. We cannot let him down, and we cannot let America down.
Joining me now is Republican National Committee Chairman Michael Whatley. Michael, congratulations.
Thank you. What a great convention. And I think it's an amazing opportunity, really, for the Republican Party to talk to every American family. And we're so excited to be here. Yeah,
I want to talk about both of those themes. On the one hand, you've got obvious unity. You had former rivals of President Trump out there talking about him and how great he is. And on the other hand, you also have this energy in the room. And unity. Tell me, and the everyday Americans is what I wanted to say. So you've got two themes, everyday Americans and this unity. Tell me about that. These were your ideas. I mean, these are so important, and the energy in the room last night was electric.
It really is, and you think about it, we want a celebration here, right? We really do want to bring all of the Republican Party together. Donald Trump has unified this party like nobody we've seen in generations. And it's really neat to see that come together. And with all of the speakers that we had last night, members from the House, members from the Senate, governors, candidates, obviously the candidates that we saw before. But the most important part of the entire night, the most important part of this week was hearing from real Americans. And talking about their stories, talking about their families, and how America needs to be better for them. And that really is the theme of this entire convention, is making sure that we're talking to every American family about how Donald Trump is going to make America better.
Well, it's resonating, certainly, and the excitement in the room, you can feel it. Will it resonate on voters? Are you going to be able to turn this into a big win in November?
We can, right? And really our focus here is Donald Trump has united the Republican Party. I mean, it's an amazing to see it come together the way that it has. Now he wants to unite the country, and I think that coming out of this horrific shooting on Saturday, frankly, it's a miracle that we are here having this conversation right now, Marie.
Yeah. And you spoke to President Trump right before he came out on stage on Monday, right? This is the first time we saw him since the assassination attempt. And I've been making the point that he seemed somber and serious, as you would expect.
Yeah, and I think it's an opportunity, really, for everybody to step back and say, why are we doing this? Why are we having this election? Why is Donald Trump waking up? He doesn't need to be doing this. I mean, he's a billionaire. He can go play golf. He can go be with his family. He's a grandfather. He's doing this because he's fighting for every American family, and he loves this country. And so, he wants to unify this country. And I think that we're in a really great position to be able to do that. And we're going to unify the country by restoring our southern border, by restoring our economy, and restoring our place in the world. So, when we have a night like tonight, and we're talking about making America strong again, we want a strong economy. We want a strong border. We want a strong standing in the world. And there's only one president, one candidate who can unite the country and make America strong again.
What have you seen in terms of fundraising as a result of all of the excitement here? I know the Trump campaign is cashing in, raising $3 million in crypto. In the second quarter, that's just a fraction of the $331 million campaign haul between April and June. Venture capital billionaires Mark Andreessen, Ben Horowitz, both planning to make significant donations to Trump's campaign. And the Wall Street Journal is reporting that Elon Musk will commit $45 million a month to a new pro-Trump super PAC, though Musk has yet to confirm that. what has this meant, all of this excitement here and this everyday American theme meant for fundraising?
Yeah, fundraising is going exactly like we were hoped that it was going to go. When you think about since he became our presumptive nominee back in March, we've raised $400 million. And what that means is we're going to have the resources that we need to take his message and go out and talk to every single American family from one end of the country to the other. Because when we have voters who understand what the president is going to do and understand his agenda, they're going to support it because they want to see a strong America.
A joint intelligence bulletin from the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security is warning of potential repeat attacks and retaliation after that failed assassination attempt on Saturday. The attack happening despite a reported increase of Secret Service protection over this intelligence report that Iran has been plotting to kill the 45th president. Michael, tell us about that and the worry over security in the face of all of this.
Well, look, I'm going to leave the security details to the experts, and we're going to see reviews of what happened up in Butler, Pennsylvania. And I think that's very important. I think you have to have internal reviews. I think you have to have FBI review, congressional review. Everybody wants to take a look and say, okay, what happened? How could this have been prevented? But as we move forward, you know, we're going to be on the road for the next, 110 days with this campaign. How are we going to keep President Trump safe? How are we going to keep, President Biden safe and everybody else? And so, there needs to be that conversation about what they're going to do. From our perspective, I know the president wants to get back on the road. I know that the president wants to talk to the American people, and he wants to talk to them directly. So obviously, within the constraints that we're going to be allowed to work with, he is going to go right back on the road and talk to the American people.
Michael, a lot of optimism over President Trump returning to the White House. But of course, the idea of illegals in this country continues to come up, and whether or not we are going to ensure a free and fair election. What are you doing in that regard? Can you give us an update?
We're working all day, every day, in terms of making sure that we're going to have things like only American citizens can vote. We need to have voter ID all across the country. We need to make sure that the states are cleaning up their voter rolls. These are things that are supported by 70, 80% of all voters, Republicans and Democrats. They want us to have protections in place to keep our elections safe.
Yeah, I mean, it also, though, is up to the states, right? I mean, some states have voter ID. Other states don't have voter ID. I was just going to pull up the chart of the states that have it. I mean, how do you deal with that?
We're working right now in every single state to try and make sure that we have these basic protections in place. So we're talking to governors, we're talking to legislators, we're talking with boards of election and secretaries of state. When we're able to make those changes, we're going to be very grateful. If not, we're going to file lawsuits. We've already filed 95 lawsuits all across the country in 25 different states to make sure that we have the rules of the road in place. Then what we're going to do is we're going to be in the room. We are recruiting 100,000 volunteers all across the country to serve as poll observers. We're recruiting attorneys on it. We want 5,000 in every battleground state. Wow. People can go to protectthevote.com and sign up. And we're going to fight every single day to make sure that we're protecting the ballot.
Well, Michael, you have to feel incredible. This is turning out the way that you expected. A lot of energy. Congratulations to you.
Thank you, Maria.
Anything else about this convention you want to tell us?
Look, I will just say, tune in. It's going to be an absolutely fantastic show. We've had 2 great nights to start. We've got 2 great nights coming up. To hear from our nominee and the future Vice President, J.D. Vance, tonight, wow, what an amazing guy, what an amazing story. We're so excited to have him on the ballot. And then tomorrow night to hear President Trump and this message that he is going to be delivering to the American people is so important.
Well, we will all be tuning in for that and watching President Trump tomorrow night and J.D. Vance tonight. Michael, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, good to see you. Michael Whatley here. Stay with us. We'll be right back.